Their love was real, but their future almost ended before it even began. Betrayal, revenge, and an old grudge nearly tore Kiara and Kovu apart forever. This is the tragic moment where the Pride Land's greatest love story almost didn't survive. So it all started long before Kiara and Kovu even met. Scar wasn't just a villain who stole the throne, he poisoned the land with hatred. He killed his own brother, Mufasa, and ruled the Pride Lands like a broken king. No food, no water, just misery and fear. When Simba finally returned and reclaimed the throne, Scar's reign ended in flames. But his downfall didn't erase his influence. It left scars, and not just on the land. See, even in death, Scar's shadow stretched over the Pride Lands. Because hatred doesn't just disappear overnight. It lingers. And in Scar's case, it just found a new home. And that home was Zira. She was Scar's fiercest follower, a lioness who worshipped his memory long after his body was gone. Simba banished her and her pride to the Outlands, creating the Outsiders, a group fueled by bitterness, hunger, and revenge. See, to them, Simba wasn't a savior. He was a thief who stole the king's legacy, and Zira made sure that they never forgot it. While Simba rebuilt the Pride Lands, Zira raised her cubs in exile. She trained them, not just to survive, but to hate, to carry on Scar's mission. And for her, one cub stood out, Kovu. He wasn't Scar's son, but Zira treated him like the chosen heir. She trained him, hardened him, and molded him into a weapon. But fate had other plans. Kiara, Simba's daughter, was the opposite of Zira's bitterness. Curious, rebellious, and always sneaking away, she wasn't afraid to wander where she didn't belong. One day as a young cub, she strayed into the Outlands. Now that's when she met Kovu. If things had ended there, maybe they would have stayed friends. Maybe none of the chaos to come would have even happened. But of course, things didn't end there. Simba appeared, angry and protective. Zira appeared too, her glare cold as ice. And in that instant, the truth became clear. This wasn't a game of cubs. This was a war between generations. Simba laid down his rule. Kiara must never go near the Outsiders again. No second chances, no exceptions. But telling Kiara not to do something only made her want it more, and Zira knew it. She saw the bond between the cubs and twisted it into her weapon. She trained Kovu to infiltrate Simba's pride, using his connection with Kiara as a way to get close to the king. To Zira, love wasn't love. It was a strategy, and Kovu was her Trojan horse. From the moment he could walk, Kovu's life wasn't his own. Zira raised him to be Scar's successor, sharpening him like a blade. Every day was drills, lessons, and harsh words about destiny. Kovu wasn't taught to play. He wasn't taught to dream. He was taught to do one thing: avenge Scar. And the plan was simple. Use Kiara's trust, win Simba's favor, get close enough to strike. But here's the thing. Kovu wasn't Scar. He wasn't Zira either. He had his doubts. He had his own feelings. And the closer he grew to Kiara, the more cracks formed in the weapon Zira had tried to forge. Still, Zira pushed him forward. When Simba finally welcomed Kovu into the Pride, the time came. The Outsiders set their ambush. Simba was lured into a gorge, surrounded by lions hungry for revenge. This was supposed to be Zira's moment, the death of Simba, the rise of Kovu, the return of Scar's legacy. But fate had other ideas. Simba fought back. The ambush collapsed into chaos. Lions scrambled, dust filled the air. And in the confusion, something unexpected happened. Nuka, Zira's other son, rushed into the fray. He'd always been desperate to prove himself, always jealous of the attention Zira gave to Kovu. And now, with Simba in his sights, he saw his chance. He clawed his way up the logs, desperate to strike, but the pile collapsed. Nuka was crushed beneath it, broken and dying. And for a brief moment, his eyes lit up with pride. He thought that he'd finally done it. He made his mother proud. But instead of comfort, Zira gave him blame. She turned her grief into fury and laid it all at Kovu's paws. So she cast Kovu out, the very cub she had raised for revenge, now exiled from his own family. When Kovu returned to Pride Rock after the ambush, looking guilty by association, Simba's fears boiled over. The dots connected too easily. Scar's protege, Scar's bloodline, an assassination attempt that almost worked. To Simba, the math was simple, and it all spelled betrayal. Did Simba pause to listen? No, not really. Did he let Kovu explain? Not at all. Instead, Simba declared judgment. He exiled Kovu. One moment, Kovu was fighting his way out of Zira's shadow, building trust with Kiara, starting to imagine a future that was his own. And next, he was cast out, branded a traitor in the eyes of the Pride. For Kovu, it was the lowest point. Everything he'd worked for, every bond he had ever built was ripped away in a single moment of mistrust. But this wasn't just Kovu's story. It was Kiara's too. When Simba banished Kovu, Kiara's heart shattered. This wasn't just a passing crush. This was the lion who saw her for more than Simba's daughter. This was the one who understood her fire, her spirit, and her dreams. And she wasn't about to let fear and paranoia destroy it. And so, while Simba sulked and clung to his rules, Kiara did the unthinkable. She left. Not out of rebellion, but with purpose. She went after Kovu herself. In that moment, Kiara stopped being just Simba's little girl. She became a leader in her own right, willing to stand against her father to save the one that she loved. While Kiara searched for Kovu, Zira saw Simba's decision as an open door. With Kovu cast aside, she rallied the outsiders for war. The final battle between Pridelanders and outsiders erupted. Claws, teeth, roars, chaos, years of hatred and grief all crashing together in one storm. And just when it seemed like Kiara and Kovu's future had been buried under the weight of two prides at war, they returned together. The battle raged on. Dust rose, lions clashed, old wounds bled fresh. It looked like nothing could stop the war. Until two voices cut through the chaos. Kiara and Kovu returned side by side, not as enemies, but as partners. They stood before both prides and refused to let hatred define them. And for the first time, the Pridelanders and the outsiders paused. They looked at each other not as enemies, but as mirrors. Oh, but Zira wasn't ready to let go. She lunged at Simba. She lunged at Kiara. Even as her pride faltered, she refused to accept peace. The fight carried her and Kiara to the edge of a cliff, a mirror of Scar's final fall. But instead of vengeance, Kiara offered something different. Her paw. A chance to live. A chance to let go. But Zira sneered. She rejected it. She chose pride over peace and fell to her death. And with that, the last shadow of Scar's hatred vanished. That was the moment Kiara and Kovu's future was almost destroyed, and the moment they proved that it was stronger than hate. So, until next time, Hakuna Matata.